Hello guys, today I'll be talking about the isolated themes of the chart, and we'll talk about the various quadrants and how planets kind of distinguish each of quadrant and how we can better understand the chart in the entirety of it. So beginning here, there's four main quadrants here. We have the passive and receptive side, very self-oriented, very in tune with the own individual consciousness internally. We have the introvert towards the bottom of this chart. It's very self-repressed in its unskillful way, but when we use it in this skillful way, it's very intelligent, reflective, and personalized realization of what it is that we're dealing with in any given situation. So if we see somebody's planets in this quadrant below the circle, below the half, then they're going to be definitely more inclined to be introverted and private. Over here we have the initiate and the active personality. You know, the person that's very aware of the other, as opposed to being aware of the self. You know, someone that's very aware of the outer external realization and the other personality. So yeah, they're very other directed and interdependent rather than, you know, independent over here. So going further on, the extrovert is going to be that person that is at the height of their career. You know, they're very career oriented, they're very accomplishment oriented, they want to realize specific goals, you know, very goal oriented. So from there we can kind of base everything else, all the planets around. Just those four main points in the chart are those critical points in the chart that if there's a house in either chart, either point cross, then those are some critical planets. So going on, you know, if we go here, we see that Mercury is that beginning part, and Mercury is always constantly continuing to intake information. You know, as babies, as infants and children, we're constantly taking in information. And this quadrant here, this quarter, can be characterized as ages 1 through 7. To when we're children, we highly romanticize life, right? We're very amazed and amused by life, and we're creative in our core essence of who we are and how we entertain ourselves and how we live life. We're very, very adamant about the wonderfulness and not mystery, but just this amazing kind of quality of life. So moving on, we have the Saturn years, or the Saturn kind of personality, and that's going to be represented by this quadrant of the chart. Very self-conscious, inward contemplation. You know, it could be comparing the self to others a lot. It could be someone who is very has a very strong willpower and a very strong inner determination also. So those are usually characterized by 7 through 14, and that is, you know, those times that we're starting to grow into our bodies more and starting to get into the activation of our endocrine system, you know, our hormones and all those things. So it activates something in us where we start to think about our own bodies. And Saturn rules the body. Saturn represents time and basically the limitations of all our bodies and humans encapsulate. So we actually start to realize our own limitations through those years. We are in this body, and we're like, some of us are pissed at it, some of us take take it to the full extent. We're in sports, we're in music, we're doing projects, we're doing creative stuff. Others are more in tune with themselves and playing video games through those years, and playing just doing things within their own circle and not outside. So continuing to go on, the initiate and the active personality is going to be towards that this quadrant here. Usually it's characterized by someone has a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, right? And rather than this constant receptive intake of information and logical processes, or more like brain processes, the Jupiter person kind of is distinguished as being someone who is having good judgment and having at least better judgment than what they were at and how where they were at. So it's the dominant kind of wisdom that we see when someone enters a room, and they don't speak. They just everybody kind of looks at them and notices something different about them. They sit down, and everybody is talking amongst themselves or talking in groups, and then something happens where everybody asks and puts the decision and the judgment based on this wise person, and so they will decide because they have experience and they have this presence and exuberance kind of radiating outward, that it does not need to be defined by words or information. It can clearly be sensed and felt and seen, really. So that's this part of the chart is more other directed and initiate and active. The next part of this chart is the assertive and aggressive type. That's characterized by Mars. The houses we see here in this quadrant is 7, 8, and 9, and that's ruled by Sagittarius, Scorpio, and Libra. And those ages are between 14 and 21. That's where we're like really getting into our own personality and our own will, taking our creative and information that we've gone throughout life seriously and applying it to our own desires and our own relationships with others, as well as making our own philosophy kind of, and living by it in a way that's very personal to you, but also it's an expression of your philosophy, your desires, and your the way you relate with others out to the world. And it could be seen as someone being assertive, which is not necessarily a good or bad thing, but aggressive is typically seen as like a bad thing. Nothing right, wrong, good, or bad about any of this. It's just examples to help clarify certain dynamics in human consciousness. So moving on, we have the Venus person. We have like someone who is much more in tune with their environments now throughout their life. 21 through 28, those years are creating your own space, creating your own home, making the environment you live in to your own accordance, your own organization. And it's all about finding inner harmony as well with the outer. And after you've been through this whole cycle, you've kind of been through what it takes to be how you know yourself, right, through this portion of the chart. And then we've kind of experienced what the other person values or what the other person has to offer us in many ways, so philosophically or intellectually or whatever, we begin to take in these qualities of Venus, which is harmonizing and integrating, most importantly, integrating everything that we have taken from our own realizations and the realizations that we've had outside. And it's a really it's a peaceful time. It could be, it could not be, but this time is ramping us up before that Saturn return, which is coming to us in 28 through 30 and 31. You know, it's a settling down before the storm of Saturn and the storms of discontent and of our own evolution begin to stir up again when we're 28 through 31, and that's when, you know, this whole orbit of Saturn, of course. So yeah, that's kind of a simple explanation. I hope that I went through that pretty quickly for you all, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks so much.